boss is mad at me, but it's just one of those days. Just one of those days. It's just one of those days, nothing goes your way. It's just one of those days. Well, I locked my keys in the car. Well, that's the third time this week so far. It's just one of those days. Just one of those days. It's just one of those days, nothing goes your way. It's just one of those days. Just one of those days. The sun don't seem to shine, and you wish you could rewind and just go back to yesterday. It's just one of those days. Well, my wife called me up in tears and said she just rolled the car and she thinks it's dead. But it's just one of those days. Just one of those days. It's just one of those days, nothing goes your way. It's just one of those days. Well, I told my wife I'm feeling stressed. She said, we got a letter from the IRS. But it's just one of those days. Just one of those days. It's just one of those days, nothing goes your way. It's just one of those days. Just one of those days. The sun don't seem to shine, and you wish you could rewind and just go back to yesterday. It's just one of those. Just one of those days, the sun don't seem to shine, and you wish you could rewind and just go back to yesterday. It's just one of those. It's just one of those. Hey, what's going on, everybody? How about we do the intro? Is anyone watching? Anyone? Anyone at all? Yes, Ryan Russa. Hey, Ryan, I'm going to miss you down at Reelfoot, man. Wish you could make it. By Get It, man. And looking forward to having hearing your calls in the competition. Let's hit this intro. Here we go. This is Rilo's Quack Chat. As a call maker, I enjoy talking shop with other duck call makers. On this podcast, it's all about duck calls and duck hunting. From the marsh to the duck call shop, we're going to find the story behind the duck calls and the people that make them. This is Rilo's Quack Chat. Hey, everybody. Oh my gosh, it's Taco Tuesday, and I forgot to get tacos down at the place, the Legion. They have excellent tacos in this area, and I forgot once again to go get tacos. Happy Taco Tuesday. It's a sad one because I didn't have any. Anyway, everyone is, man, I mean, everyone's getting amped up for the season. Everyone is a bunch of people I'm going to see this Friday and Saturday down at Reelfoot. And then everyone that's in Florida, man, we are praying for you guys. And we're just going to be keeping you in our prayers, everyone in North Carolina. And I've heard South Carolina has been had some problems too. Everyone that's going through all this stuff, we're praying for you guys. Man, yeah, it's just horrible. So everyone, and in Tennessee, there was some stuff go down in Tennessee. And so everyone, we are just amped up, excited, ready to go. If you can see the picture right here, you know exactly who I'm going to be talking to. So I'm going to go ahead and have him on, Mr. Shaun Trump. How are you doing, Shaun?
I'm doing good, Riley. How you doing?
Doing good. How did we start talking? We've been talking for 2 years, and we've been trying to get this going for 2 years now.
I think it might even be longer than that. I honestly cannot remember how we kind of started touching base and talking and stuff, but we talked quite a bit over the last 3 years, and yeah, this has been a long time coming.
Yeah, I'm not about to even try to go back in the archives and see how long we've been talking, because that's a lot of text or messages and pictures back and forth and talking duck calls and showing the different designs. I mean, I think I was one of the few people that got to see the prototype of the Ruckus, wasn't I?
Yes, I kind of kept that a big secret for as long as I could, with how anxious I was for that to come to fruition there. But yeah, I think you were one of the few people that I did share that with, just with how much we had talked and everything, and gone over calls we were working on.
Yeah, and it was one thing I remember, when we started talking, we were talking about doing YouTube stuff, and you were like, man, I want to do a YouTube video, and I was like, dude, do a goose a goose flute tutorial. And man, for that first season, it seemed like there weren't many views, and now it's up to 10,000 or something.
Honestly, I kind of forgot that was up there, and what it was is I've just kind of put YouTube out of my mind for right now, just because honestly, it's just really tough to try and post anything to YouTube that I kind of meets my expectations. So I don't know what it's up to.
Have you not watched that? Have you not seen the views on that video?
No,
dude, it's up to 15,000 views.
Yeah, and honestly, if I went back and watch it now, I'd probably cringe at myself. But yeah, I used to love ripping a flute, and now, I mean, I love a short reed now, but I'd probably cringe at how I blew that back then. So
the flutes, there is such a if you look back at that, it's man, there was definitely a need at that time for someone, and still is, for someone to do some how-to videos on some of those. And I mean, some of those videos you release and there's not many views, and then you come back later and you're like, holy moly, what happened there? Like, I did a review of the Falk's whistle, and like I saw the other day it had like 800 something views over a couple years. So it's like some of those videos, they just snowball, you know what I mean?
Well, I've had that with reels. I made a TikTok reel, and whenever I make reels on TikTok, because reels in general have become so big on Instagram and Facebook, I always make sure that I take the reel that I posted to TikTok and I share it on my other social medias too. And I made this reel, and it was just meant to be funny, and posted across all three, and it didn't really do well. And then I reposted it to I posted it again on TikTok later, just a different time frame and everything, and it did well. And then all of a sudden, there was like a 2 or 3 week period where I would wake up in the morning to like 60 Instagram notifications, all of likes or saves of that reel. And it was just like, yeah, I mean, it was like 2 months after I posted it to my Instagram. You know, it had a couple likes initially, and then all of a sudden it just blew up.
Yeah. So
funny how that works.
Isn't it funny? That's hilarious. And man, I'm sorry for everyone why I just peeked that. But anyway, man, how's married life? Because you got married like 4 months ago?
Yeah, I got married back in May. I absolutely love it. So it was something that I always kind of aspired to, find somebody who I loved and who loved me and, appreciated me and everything. And we just were the right fit for each other. And I found that person, and it's awesome.
And at least she knew what she was getting into with this duck hunting and outfitting and duck call making and dog training and all that life.
Well, the dog training she brought on herself. The dog was something she bought as a gift for me, because my entire life I have wanted a lab to train to be a hunting dog. And at the time when we were dating and we got him, I wasn't allowed to have a dog where I was staying. So she bought the dog and kept it at her mom's house with her. And that's how I got my hunting dog. So the dog training was on her. Everything else, though, she was aware of before we got married. So
yeah, isn't that funny? I mean, it's like I was married, I don't know, quite a few years before I started making duck calls and getting into duck hunting. I still remember like that first night I woke up at 2:00 in the morning, and my wife like just wakes up and looks at me getting all camo on my face and all this, and she's like, what is happening? And she was raised by a coon hunter, deer hunter. She's like, I think it was like after that first season, and it's like I'm dog tired, like I haven't seen any birds, but still I'm putting the waders on, and I'm like stumbling out of the house with the thermos full of coffee. And she looked at me and goes, duck hunters are the craziest hunters, hands down. Like, they're the most crazy.
It doesn't matter if they are aware of what they're getting into. They will still think that, my wife still doesn't understand some of the crazy things I do. Like, I just the other day pulled all the decoys out of my trailer and like was going over rigs and everything. And she's just like, I just don't understand why you have this many decoys. And I was like, and you're never going to, but I have them, and I'll probably buy more. So just be prepared. It doesn't end here. So,
but you know what's funny is then if they could see like some of these guys, I don't know how you do it, but in the later season, they'll literally put all that massive decoys 100 yards away in another hole, and then they'll hunt the side pocket with like 3 decoys. And I've heard of like outfitters in Texas where I talked to one of them on my other podcast, and he told me, he's like, no, he said, we'll pull up to the blind and I'm just going to get something. They're unloading the gear because there's 500 decoys out and all these flock of flickers and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, just go. We're hunting the side hole and we're going to throw 4 decoys out. And these guys are like, what's going on? But, as you being an outfitter, you have to change your game plan all the time just to get where the ducks are, probably.
Yeah, and I guided this last year in Arkansas, and it was kind of one of those things where I wasn't married yet, and I was working at a place where I could take the winter off, and I had the opportunity to do it. It's just like, hey, I'm going to do this because why not? I'm going to kick myself for the rest of my life if I don't. And even back here, I am constantly moving decoys and stuff. I started to. One thing that being down there and guiding really, I guess you would say improved for me is being able to read birds better. I would see more birds, work more birds and everything. So, as a guide, I was making adjustments even more. All right, well, hang on. They didn't like something. What is it? And you're figuring that kind of stuff out and everything. And, back here in Pennsylvania, it's a little different for me. I have different strategies that I use here and stuff, especially when you get into the late season. I kind of look at what everybody else is doing and see how they're doing, and then I kind of make my plays off of that. So
yeah. Awesome. So Kelly Belts is watching, Ron Davis, Kelly Gaddis, Josh Lynn. Josh Lynn said, hey guys, Trump in the house. And he also said Trump 2024. Hey Josh. Yeah, let's not go down that rabbit hole. I guarantee after I get off of here, I'll see some kind of campaign ad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll just dodge a bullet with that one. No pun intended. Man, he by now he's got to be Neo from the Matrix. Daggone.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this. I saw that there were 80,000 people at that rally in your home state just 2 days ago, and what, Butler?
Yeah, it was big. It
was bigger than the first time.
Oh yeah. Which is good.
You know what I was hoping he would say? I was hoping he was going to get up and the first words out of his mouth were, as I was saying.
Oh, yeah, that was a missed opportunity.
I know. He should have done it. Anyway, Shaun, let's do this like a duck hunter AA meeting. How did this addiction start? When did it? Like, when was your first hunt?
So the addiction really started before I even went on my first duck hunt.
Really?
And yes, because my family that I grew up in, my family, we're deer hunters,
Yep.
and that's just what we did. And waterfowl was never, it's huge here now, and I think social media plays a big role into that, but deer hunting is kind of what Pennsylvania is known for. You know what I mean? So I grew up in a family that just deer hunted. My dad just deer hunted, my grandfather just deer hunted and turkey hunted and stuff. Some of my, my dad and some of my uncles, but nobody waterfowl hunted. But I mean, as a young kid with access to, the Sportsman and Outdoor channel and YouTube, I mean, I was just enthralled with duck hunting and stuff, and it was just like I want to do this so bad. So when I finally got older and stuff, I think I was 15 and I had a friend who was older than me. He could drive, and he had duck hunted once or twice when he was away at college and stuff. So we drove down to Cabela's and, I bought some stuff and everything. And it wasn't until I was 15 that I actually started duck hunting. But I mean, it was just like, I wanted to do it so bad. And now it's like, I love it. I still love deer hunting and archery hunting and stuff. I do it just about as much as I hunt, ducks and geese. But yeah, the addiction started way before that first duck hunt.
Wow. Yeah, and I feel it like here in Indiana, it's a deer hunting state. Like, if you want to get your birds, you have to find one of those secret honey holes that has been handed down generations that no one talks about. And, or you have to go do a draw. And even then, like, you go down Goose Pond, you go to Kankakee, you go to some of these places. The ducks are aware of what's going on. They're not dumb. So it's very limited here in Indiana. So yeah, I totally get what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, and it's definitely it's not like it's changing in the sense that there's definitely not more space to waterfowl hunt becoming available here. Um, but as I do this more and more each year and I meet new people and stuff, it opens new doors for me and stuff. I've recently uh last couple of years I've got into like hunting the coastal marshes and stuff, and parts of Maryland and New Jersey and
Ooh,
everything, which that's another world. And if you had to make me pick between like December, January coastal marsh hunting and Arkansas flooded timber, I don't think I could pick because they're both awesome. So, it's just, yeah, it's not getting any easier, but at the same time, it's like, the more I learn and the more I progress in my passion for this, it in a sense kind of does get easier.
yeah, yeah. A friend of mine has offered me to come hunt with him in Maryland, and what do you think? You think I should take him up?
Yeah, I would. Absolutely. So Maryland's a tough state too because Maryland has a lot of restrictions for people coming in from out of state. There's a lot of
Really?
places yeah, there's places you can't hunt without a Maryland resident present with you. Offshore blinds, stuff like that. Maryland has a lot of restrictions. It kind of sucks, being so close and everything for me, but at the same time, it's like I respect it because it helps keep um, their waterfowl hunting, rich and everything, which is really good. And one thing that gets overlooked is Maryland and New Jersey and the Northeast here. This is where waterfowl hunting kind of like started. You come up here and you're down in Havre de Grace and down on the eastern shore of Maryland. I mean, there's waterfowl history that goes way, way back there, way back before, flooded timber in Arkansas, before all that. And it's a really cool thing to go
Hmm.
experience.
Hmm. Yeah. It's you know, but that's like that's something you and I have in common. We're from states that aren't. We don't really have a heritage of duck hunting in our states. There are
Hmm.
more deer. So I mean, when you go to those states that are more, that's our heritage. That's we've been doing this for hundreds of years. That's that man. I mean, that's a total difference right there.
Hmm. But it's also cool too because it's like you can go to that state and experience it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and after you do, and then you come back to your state, you learn to appreciate why they kind of have those restrictions and why it's different. Why, it
Mm-hmm.
might be kind of tougher, like Arkansas this year switched that you can't hunt any of the WMAs. I believe it's the WMAs till after Christmas, and it's like, so, Biomeda is probably the most famous WMA down there. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, if you're a non-resident, you can't hunt it till after Christmas. But it's like, as a non-resident, when you go there and experience it, you know, it's something it's like, okay, I can respect why it's like, hey, the people who live down here, the
Mm-hmm.
state wants this because it's like, you have all these people coming here to experience this. And, it's only fair to the people who live here and have built their life here that they get to equally experience it. So, I
Yep.
have a lot of respects for states that have, restrictions and stuff for out of staters that want to go waterfowl hunt in their state because, they're fighting to keep, um, the sport alive in their state.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know it. I haven't had the privilege to hunt outside of Indiana yet, duck hunt, and that's
Hmm.
definitely in the next couple years. I'd love to do that, but it seems, wouldn't it be? I mean, for you and I, it's like we're being in states that there aren't a lot of duck hunters. Duck hunting isn't really the big thing on the radar. You're probably one of what, 3 call makers in Pennsylvania, maybe 4. Um,
So I don't actually know anybody else in Pennsylvania who makes calls. That doesn't mean that there isn't any.
uh
It's
huh.
just that I don't know who they are. I know Caleb in Maryland is the closest person that I personally know who makes calls.
See, I knew there were some guys there, but they all moved away.
Hmm.
Wasn't Mark Mueller was there? Um, I want to say, maybe I'm wrong. I thought Jake Whiteside was there one time. I may be wrong. Um,
Maybe.
I may be wrong. I think no, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. He was somewhere else. But there, I mean, it seems like Washington or not Washington, but Pennsylvania. Like there aren't a lot of call makers there. Like Indiana, like there's what's funny is there aren't a lot of call makers, but the call makers that are here, 2 of them are within 50 miles of me. So
Mhm.
so it's like it's just crazy, you know. But but go
I
ahead.
don't have a lot of access to knowing that stuff, so I actually got banned from the state's big waterfowl group. It's a private group. They won't let me back in. I can't even contact the admins to say, hey, like, can I join the group again? So what happened was, is this guy was willing to give away. He had a couple dozen decoys. He got new ones. He was willing to give them away to a youth or somebody who wanted to get into the sport but didn't, have the extra money to spend on decoys. And this guy gets in the comments and is ripping this guy for doing this. And he's like, if people can't afford to buy some decoys, they shouldn't even be waterfowl hunting, you know. And he commented like a couple times, and I was just like, all right, I can't keep my mouth shut anymore. So I started going at him, and and not like in a mean way. I wasn't like arrogant or anything. I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, I was kind of just sticking up for this guy and for, like, hey, if somebody wants to give the sport a try or they want to do it and they can't afford decoys, that's not a problem. Nobody's saying this is a rich man's game. It doesn't have to be. That's just what the world has made it, you know? So, anyways, he cried to the admins and I got kicked out. So, who knows? There could be other call makers that are 20 minutes away from me, but I don't know because I'm I'm excluded from the PA state group.
Have you ever checked CCAA to see if there's any in there?
I did look at that once, and I don't think so,
Really?
but I'd have to go back and look again because it's been several months, if not maybe a year or so since I looked at that.
Have you checked it to see if you're even in there?
I think I did, and I wasn't on there. So
See, I'm not even in there.
yeah, I think he put up whoever runs it put up a post, I think earlier this year, and saying, oh, if you're not on here, leave a comment. And I left a comment. I still didn't. I still don't think I made it on there.
Oh, I do every time, and then I go and check it, and I'm never on there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. I get it. The guys at the CCAA, they do a lot. I mean, like just everything behind the scenes of what they're doing in um at Reelfoot this weekend. There's just so much going on. It's just going to be crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So I still don't think I'm on that list. And I can't remember if there's anybody there from PA. So I'll have to check back again later.
Yeah, I just looked it up. I couldn't even find Pennsylvania.
Yeah, yeah. Well, then I'm not on there then.
um, yeah. So I'm going to change the view as we start talking about. Well, let's see here. When did you get into duck call making?
can't even remember. I want to say around 2016 is when I got started because
Mm-hmm.
I was still in high school.
Yeah, I'm looking at your calls right now. I'm looking at that Ruckus. Um, Man, that's a sharp call.
Thank you.
So I mean, did
It's a big it's a big difference from where I started. That's for sure.
I mean what? And I'm looking at who is Moose your dog? Who's Moose?
That's my dog. Yeah,
Okay,
Moose is
cool.
my dog.
That's awesome. So I mean, and I mean, I remember talking to you back when you were doing just J frames and wood duck calls and stuff, and now it seems like you're just full on ruckus mode. Man, they're pretty with that ivory with the purple. Daggone.
Yeah, the ivory and the purple. The first batch I did that was hot. It wasn't so hot second round. The black and gold, I can never, ever, ever keep them on the shelf.
Really,
I mean, nope. As soon as I get them and I post a picture of them, they're gone.
the black and gold with the gold lettering.
You know,
See,
as
because it's
soon as I
so
get them, they're
classic, you
gone.
know.
It is, and it looks sharp. I was actually surprised that the ivory and gold doesn't do as well because I know there's a lot of people out there who love ivory calls, but
Ooh, there it
yeah.
is. Yeah, there it is right there. Um,
Hmm.
you know why? Because people are used to cut downs being black.
Right.
So I
Well,
mean,
yeah, and that's probably a huge part of it.
yeah, because I mean, it's like an acrylic metal reed duck call. You know, that's not traditional. I'm sure it sounds great. I'll probably make one at some point in time, but it's not traditional, you know? So when you get into things like cut downs, people are funny like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So I have one right now. I have a batch of calls I got to go pick up from the machinist. I've just been so busy with work I haven't gotten over there. But I have my variation of a boots on color combo,
mm-hmm.
and I got one because I wanted to see how they came out, like all polished up and everything. I got one from the machinist when I was over there. He had one done, and that one's currently hanging on my lanyard. I think that one
Mm-hmm.
might be my favorite personally. I thought I was
Nice.
gonna love that transparent Coke bottle.
Uh-huh.
I hate it, and I think I hate it because it is such a pain to polish.
Do you Scotch Brite them or how do you polish them?
So my machinist actually, he has the turning speed dialed in so well that I just use Novus 321,
Yeah.
and when I pick up acrylic calls from him, I can skip number 3 and just go straight to 2.
Nice.
So
Nice.
yeah, two on a cloth rag, and it's just those transparent ones. You got to get inside and outside. It's just like, I don't know if I'll ever do another batch of
Yeah,
these.
real quick, Ryan Russa said, I'll make a note. Thank you, Ryan. And he also said, Tim Patterson is in Pennsylvania. So,
Okay, I'll have to
never
look
even
him up.
heard of Tim.
Neither have I, but
Hmm.
I'll have to look him up and see what he's about.
Yeah, for sure. Have you thought about flame polishing?
Yeah, I have. It's just, I only I might still have a couple more transparents coming in this batch. But it was kind of like, I'm not doing enough of them, and I know that there's kind of a niche group of
Mm-hmm.
people, who want transparent calls that I wasn't like. It's not like something I'm planning on doing a lot of in the future. So I was holding off on the flame polisher for now. Although I know for some reason transparent J frames seem to be kind of slightly more popular. So we'll have to see because I do have a J frame that I still tweaking a little bit, but I'm hoping to have out for November.
Mm-hmm.
And I might do some of those in transparent. So if I start getting into transparents with those and everything, I'm gonna pick up a flame polish and setup just because it'll just make my life so much easier.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, you have to make sure you talk to some of the guys because I can't remember if it's Deadshot or Spartek that will not
flame polish very well.
I believe it's Deadshot, and the reason I say that is um, I do have a smaller torch here that I use for like some little electrical stuff. It's just
Uh-huh.
like a little butane torch.
Right.
And over the winter, I had a stock of transparent and I did something with it. I was just like, I just want to see, how this works because I could dial it way down and everything.
Yeah.
And um, I think it was like two really fast, passes, just one, two, and it actually softened the acrylic enough that while it was spinning on the lathe, it threw it out around. So I don't know. Now, once again, that's not a proper flame polishing setup. I'll have to go back and watch. I think CNS Calls has a video about their flame polisher setup. So I'll have to go back and look when the time comes. But
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it's probably Deadshot.
Hmm. Ryan, are you still watching? I got a question for you if you're still watching. Um, yeah, it's, man, I just look at those transparents and I'm like, no, thank you. Like, I know they're hot, but I have no desire to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you do them right and stuff, I think they look great.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's a pain. I mean, I'm sure I wouldn't mind it as much if I had the flame polisher set up and everything, but they're still a pain, because it's like when you have a black car, it's like you see
Everything.
everything. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, it's just one of those things where, they're a pain either way, but they still look cool when they're done. So.
Now, do you think you'll ever do like a hand turned acrylic ruckus and like enter it in some of these competitions?
So that isn't possible. And without giving too much away over the podcast, the geometries of the call make it, to my knowledge, impossible to turn by hand. Um, Now, in the future, I might be able to do some out of wood,
Mm-hmm.
which, I know wood isn't, in today's world, wood's not as desirable as acrylic is, especially when it comes to cut downs. And there
Uh-huh.
definitely is a difference, between using acrylic for cut downs and wood. But there are still people who I know like wood calls and they just like the way they sound and everything, the way they look. So I might eventually do some wood ones in the future, where they have the Ruckus tone board, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if I will be able to make the barrel. And yeah, it's real tough. The geometries on it are very precise. So
Well, you designed that originally off of what, a 3D printer?
so I
Now, don't give too much away.
I'm not going to give too much away, and it's not like I got some big secret, I'm hiding, some trick that's going to, this is the next greatest call ever. That's not the case. It's just, I put a lot of work into it and stuff, and I found a way to make it work for myself. And,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to give it away too much, but I, I was hand turning stuff for a while, and personally, I just didn't feel like I was 100% proud and happy of the stuff that I was coming out with.
Yeah.
And I felt that some of it was just the equipment I was using and stuff. But at the same time, too, is like, I kind of want to see where I can take this. Like, I don't need to be the next RNT. I don't need to be in the next Rolling Thunder or any of those guys. That's not why I do this.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of want to see where I can go with this, And the biggest thing is, getting married and everything. I got the dog. I ran out of time to sit down and hand turn stuff as much. And like I said, my lathe, I mean, I still use the same lathe I was using back then because I'm just mostly polishing stuff and all. But, the lathe was getting tired and everything. And I didn't have as much time because I had the dog and I was training the dog and stuff. So I decided that I wanted to start pursuing doing CNC calls. It doesn't require as much of my time hands on, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like I'm going to design the call. I'm going to test the call, cut the call, everything. The only thing that I'm not doing is, as of right now, I'm not CNC machining them. I hope one day when the wife and I get, a house big enough that I can put a CNC machine in the garage or something, that I am doing everything. But so I found a CAD program, and I think my buddy actually recommended it to me, and I started playing around with the CAD, and I kind of just started with some stuff, and I'll be completely honest. When I designed the first Ruckus, the only Ruckus actually, but like the first, one that, I had 3D printed and then I eventually had turned, and I've made subtle adjustments to it since then.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it was cosmetic stuff. Um, excuse me. I guessed on just about every single dimension of it, except for how the insert fit in the barrel. I knew my diameters, everything and stuff, but as far as the geometry of the bores of everything, it was all just, I'm going to see if this works.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, I thought it was crazy. I think I showed it to you before, and I was like, this is crazy. To me, it's like, in my head, it's like, these are some pretty extreme, geometries, but I want to see if this works.
Yeah.
And in my head, I had a reasoning why I thought it would work. So I figured out how to use the CAD. I produced it in CAD, and I found a guy who did 3D printing as a side business near me. And so I had him 3D print me three calls, and that gave me enough to know that I can produce a sound. Mind you, at this point in time, I'd blown a cut down. I'd never cut a cut down. You know what I mean? I've never cut on an old or anything like that. So, after I figured out, like, okay, this will produce a sound, the geometry works, okay. I sent it to the guy who I'd found to do CNC work. So he did 3 prototypes for me. I got the prototypes back, and I found that they worked. So it's like, cool. We started. That's when some of the design changes started. And then before I went to Arkansas, I was like, I need like 15 calls to take with me. Just 15 calls. They don't have to be done. Like, I just want 15 barrels and 15 inserts. So you got them done. I took them down, and just being down there in Arkansas, I got to meet some guys and stuff. Mason Norman, Gordon Bragg, I got to meet those guys and everything. And, they kind of gave me some pointers and stuff. My cut down calling improved a lot. I could blow a cut down, but I wouldn't say that I was proficient on a cut down at that time and stuff. And so I learned a lot as far as operating one and cutting one. And I can cut the Ruckuses, and they all come out how I want them to sound. They all come out the same, and it's pretty crazy to see. I still have the original, but I still have one uncut 3D printed prototype, and I keep it, and it just kind of sits in my truck, and it's kind of cool to see it in there every once in a while. Because then sitting in the other part of my center console are my calls, and it's just like, man, it's crazy that went from this to this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so cool. And sometimes I'll do that. It's so cool to look back at where you started with something. Like, I'll go back and look at one of my original handmade jigs, or and it's like, daggone, why did it take so long to figure that out?
Right.
But it's just a process.
Yeah, it is, and it's funny because sometimes, like, right now I have a bench set up down in the basement. I bought a laser engraver. That was something that it was like, I got to get this because I can't I have to wait on, I have to wait for the machinist to do calls for me. I don't want to have to wait to have them make rate too.
Mm-hmm.
So I got that. So I got my bandsaw and I got my engraver and everything set up down the basement. And it's funny because, sometimes I'll kind of just sit down there and I kind of just look at the calls on the shelf and everything. And, it's just like, I mean, I get kind of emotional over it because it's like, this is something that it's just, there's some days I just want to quit so bad, where it's like I'll mess 2 inserts up in a row, and it's just
Yep.
like where something happens, and it's just or calls aren't selling or this or that, I'm not kind of getting any activity on my post. It's just like I just want to quit, but it's just there's something in me that just won't let me quit, and it's when I look at those calls on the shelf, and it's like I think about where I started. I still have the first duck call I made, and it's like I think about where I started, and then I look at where I've gotten to so far, and it's just like you can't quit now. You're just getting started. You can't quit now. But it makes I'll be honest, to all of social media that's listening to this, it makes me emotional because it's like, it is just crazy to see how much I figured out, how much I've learned,
It's, and like you were saying, like looking back and getting emotional, it's like, daggone, like all the hours that we've put into messing up tone boards, why did it do this? And just the hundreds of hours of just our research and development and just throwing stuff at the wall and checking this by the thousandths. And, it's just, and then once you get it, it's like, daggone, and you said like, you want to quit. Yes, I know. There's days I want to quit and I'm like, I'm done. I'm ready to sell all the equipment and get out of it. But then the next day, like that person calls wanting a call, or they send you see a message and they're like, hey, I want to buy a call, or, you cut that tone board just right and it just sounds so good. And you're like, daggone, this is awesome. Happens every time. It's like, it's the worst drug there is. It's horrible.
Yeah. And, I mean, even most recently, I pursued the cut downs really hard because I knew I was going to Arkansas to guide. And the other thing was too, it's like, I kind of just, there's something that's always just fascinated me with hunting ducks and flooded timber. And then, I got to learning about cut downs and everything. And it was kind of just, it's like, I don't know, it just fascinates me, and I love it. And I love cut down calls and everything. And I still love J-frames. Sometimes I hate going from tuning a whole bunch of cut downs to then having to tune J-frames because it's like, it takes me a minute to kind of switch gears. But, even recently, I had a tone board for a call that I messed up, and I said, well, there's no sense in just letting it sit here and throwing it in the trash. So that's when I started cutting on it and playing with it and stuff. And that's where I was like, ooh, now I was able to figure out a J-frame, just a regular J-frame, because I don't have one. I don't have a regular J-frame, like Main Street style call, as they say right now. And it's like, I figured it out, and it's like, I and it's weird too, because when I figure out a cut on something and I think I have it sounding good, it'll be 3 weeks before it's like, yeah, that sounds like I can put like a stamp of approval, like I think that sounds good, because I will like run it like constantly. I'll run it like every day, and then I'll put it down and I'll come back to it, and it's like to see if I still think the same, because in the moment when it's like, ooh, I figured this out, I'm excited, I'm just amped up about it, but so I'll set it down and I'll come back to it, because if I want to come back to it when I'm not all amped up and excited that it's like, I finally figured this out, because I want to make sure it sounds good. And that's kind of where I'm at with this J-frame now. It's like, I think it sounds good. I put it through the ringer over the past week. but we're going to come back to it next week. I'm going to use it opening day of duck season and stuff and kind of make sure it's exactly what I want before, it's like, all right, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and like I'll do that. I'll rest my ears. If I've fatigued my ears by blowing 8 calls in a day and I just need to rest them, I'll sit the calls down and I won't blow another duck call for till the next day. And then it's amazing how you pick that call up the next day and then you're like quack, 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 and the night before you were like, this was awesome, amazing, and then you let that wood rest and you let your ears rest and it sounds totally different.
And another thing too, and I started doing this more within the last year. Actually, I started doing this when I started building the Ruckus. Every time I cut on a call, whether it's a J-frame, a hybrid, or a cut down, when I first of all, I don't blow it inside. I always go outside to blow it because it sounds different. And then the other reason is because every time, it doesn't matter if the call sounds like crap, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly where I want something. I record every time I blow a call. I make a video because I go back and watch it, and I nitpick at little things. It's like, I didn't like how that sounded. I didn't like, but it's really cool though, because for the last year and a half, I have videos of almost every time I have tuned a call and stuff. And one of the big reasons that is I haven't gotten any like hard copy jigs made yet. I have my own jigs that I've made, and it's just, I get it close enough where it's like I can cut them all the same.
Right.
I can get them all the same. They all sound the same when you go out the door. But, I wanted to kind of have my stuff exactly where I wanted to just send away for the jigs all at the same time. So then I just get them all back around the same time.
Yeah.
But, it's still, I like it because it shows where I started and where I'm at. You know what I mean? Kind of coming back to that.
And my hat's off to you for making cut downs, because jumping into that market is getting flooded so bad right now.
Well, when I jumped in last year with the first ones, it wasn't quite like it is. And it took me until August, maybe July, but I think it was August, to get another batch of calls. Just with coming home from Arkansas, getting married, I had a whole bunch of other stuff going on until it was like I got material, I got the stuff to the machinist and paid for them, picked everything up. It was like August. And then, I just remember I sold like 7 calls in an hour or something like that last January when I was in Arkansas. And like I go to kind of jump back into things thinking it's going to be like that. And it's like, oh, hey, rude awakening for you. That was a year ago. This is the new market now. It's a lot tougher, but it's still one of those things where it's like, everybody's got to start somewhere. One thing I always ask when somebody gets a call from me, if they message me and ask me for a call, it's like, yeah, absolutely. Please let me know what you think of it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, hey, yeah, can you make a post, shout me out? No. Let me know personally what you think, the good, the bad, the ugly, because that's what's important to me. And one of the coolest things I think is I'm in the call pages a lot. I have yet to see, I don't have a ton out there, but I haven't seen one of my calls come up for sale or for trade, which to me, like I said, I probably only have like 30 or so of the Ruckuses out there. It might be a little more than that, but the fact that I haven't seen one come up for sale yet, kind of makes me, it's a little reassuring, because it's like, well, they've held on to them for this long. If they're not coming back up for sale, I feel confident that they're happy with the call, you know.
Right. Yeah. I've told my wife, I'm like, the day you see me get really depressed is when I see one of my calls on the Sunday trade call nuts.
Yeah, and I mean, hey,
Like,
I don't care if people want to trade my calls around. It's just kind of like I've looked at it and it's just like I haven't seen one come up yet. So that must mean the people who got them like them, you know. So and maybe it's just me kind of like trying to feel better or something, but it feels good to not have seen one come up yet. So I'm sure that first day that the first time that it happens, I'll be like, what the heck? But
oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's yeah. I just know it's going to happen for me eventually. I mean, once you make so many calls a year, it's bound to happen.
well, there's a good side to it too, you know, because you could end up like, you know, I see Brad Samples calls moving around on waffle pages and stuff like that, and it's just like people want them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a little different because you know Brad's not producing calls necessarily to the same capacity that like I can, you know, I can pick up 50 calls from the machinist if I want and have 50 calls at one time.
Right.
And, you know, we're two totally different call makers, but
Two different parts of the market too.
yes, two different parts of the market too. But I mean, to use them as an example is what I'm saying is like, it's cool. Like I almost sometimes I really admire. It's like, man, it's really cool to see Brad Samples calls moving around like RNT calls or layers calls or you know something like that where it's like, hey, like you know he's big enough that his you know and has enough presence and has made enough of an impression in the community that people are trading his calls around because there's a desire for him.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, but and how do I say this? Brad Samples is a rock star without meaning to be, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I should have started making marks on the wall every time at the last three questions. When I'm like, what call maker would you like to stand over the shoulder and see them turn a duck call? And I might as well just say Brad Samples. I don't even have to ask you
Right.
because they say like one out of every three is like Brad Samples, and
Mm-hmm.
it's because just some of the cool stuff he does. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know, I've had a couple interactions with him, you know, through Facebook and stuff. There was one time I was down in South Carolina, for when my brother graduated from basic training, and I really, you know, it was a big family thing. We were only down there for a day or two. I knew Brad Samples and Joey D'Amico were in South Carolina, and they were call makers that I had conversations with, and it's like, man, I really would love to just stop in and see one of them. But Brad Samples actually, he feathered my wedding band, and he's feathered a band for a call for me. And anytime I've ever dealt with Brad, he's always been a very humble and a very just welcoming person. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'd probably answer that question the same way. If you had to look over the shoulder of one call maker while they turn a call, you know, I don't even have to watch him turn a call. It would be cool to hang out with somebody, you know, like Brad or, you know, Joey and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll get to that here in a second. We're actually almost to the end of the podcast, but I mean, was there anything? I mean, we talked about the Ruckus. I saw the Deviant. Here's a question I have for you. So, I mean, you said it may be hard to do a handmade Ruckus, but have you thought about like getting your call into more people's hands that could do cut down competitions?
Yeah, so it's something I'm trying to do. I got a couple people I got to get Deviant sent to, which I actually have. They're people who I know, and who we've talked, and it's like, hey, I'll send you one of these. Run it, you know, like with the Deviant, that's supposed to be a hybrid. I picked a person who I know is a huge fan of Layers calls because it's like, you know, you're familiar with this call, and I'm striving to make a call of, you know, that kind of level, not to the same level, but that's what I'm shooting for, kind of thing. So it's like, can you try one of these out? I have another person who messaged me. They were asking because they do a lot of calling competitions. They were looking for more of a Main Street style. And I actually just messaged them back and I said, I think I have just the thing. You'll have to let me know what you think. But with the cut downs, it's kind of like, I'd love to, give a bunch of them away to people, and I'm sure depending on the person, if it's like, hey, I'd like to give one of your calls a shot and blow it in competitions, that's fine. It's just, that's a tough question to answer because I want people to try them out. I want people to run them in competitions. But at the same time, it's like, it's so hard because, I get kids that message me on like Instagram all the time asking for, if I would send them a call and this and that. It's just, I feel bad saying no, but it's like, if I say yes to everybody, I won't have any calls and I won't have any money to make new calls. So that's kind of a tough one, but yeah, I do want people to blow them in competitions and stuff. And I do want people to try them out,
Yeah.
And I think it would kind of depend on the person, whether or not I just say, yeah, hey, here you go. Let me know what you think and stuff. Because there's definitely some people, and I'm not going to mention names, but there's definitely some people that I admire more than others when it comes to running cut down calls. And I definitely have a list of people who it's like they said, hey, I'll try one out or I'll blow one in a competition. I would just throw it in the mail and say, here you go, But like I said, I'm not going to list any names or anything and stuff because, yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah. Yeah. The trick would almost be to find like the next Seth Russell, right? Or Roussel, or however you pronounce his name, that just like explodes. And then there he is, And so, within like 2 years, he's really been exploding onto the scene and he'll be blowing in the worlds this year. So, to find it, it would almost, I don't even think Pennsylvania has a calling competition for Main Street, does it?
Yes, we do.
Really?
I was supposed to be there this year due to some family stuff that's been going on. I wasn't able to make it, but if you go to Full Circle Waterfowl or Tyler Coleman's page, you can find some of the videos and stuff there. You'll see my poster up on any pictures of the stage because I had a banner up and everything. I actually had a kid. He blew my call in the competition. He kind of just went up there kind of on a whim, just like, whatever. I'm here. I'm going to do it. And I'm listening to him blow, and I'm like, something ain't right. That is not the same call that I sent that kid 2 weeks ago. And he texted me afterwards. He's like, man, I got up there, and I realized afterwards, I guess his daughter got a hold of the call and shoved a pencil on it and kinked the reed.
No!
Oh, I was so disappointed. I was like, oh, man. So, but, it was still cool. So that was the first one of my duck calls that's ever been on the stage of a calling competition. And, even though it didn't sound how it was supposed to sound and everything, it was still cool. He did end up getting second place and everything, so it was like, all right, this is still cool. But it was tough. This year was a real small turnout for it. But yeah, we don't have a cut down calling competition here though. So
yeah, I know one of these days I'm gonna have to get one of my calls in someone's hands for that type of deal, but yeah. Oh, what was I gonna say, Shaun? It's man, why don't we go into the 3 questions here in a second? But real quick, how can people find if they want to get a Ruckus off of you? How can they do that?
So you can go on my website, and you can order one off of there, or you can message me on Facebook. I don't really care either way. Um, I do. I have been running deals and sales and stuff, when I can, trying to just kind of keep things moving so, I can keep new varieties of stuff coming through and everything. The easiest way is just, yeah, either go on the website or message me. It's probably easier if you're listening to this just to message me, because I don't always get the website updated as quick as I would like. So sometimes I have things that aren't up there. If something is up there, then I have it. It's not like, oh, there might be something up there that, says it's in stock and I don't have it. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I have things or I have options, like that tuxedo one. I didn't realize that I had a couple extra ivory calls that I could turn into that blackened ivory. So they're up there now, but yeah, you can just people can just message me. That's perfectly fine too. I'm a friendly person.
Cool. All right. Well, Shaun, thank you so much. Are you ready for the last 3 questions?
Absolutely.
All right. If you could go back in time and do a hunt all over again, what would it be?
It would be January of 2017. We went out on a hunt, and it was slow to start the morning, so I jumped in the kayak that we would use to retrieve birds, and I paddled out to try and sneak up on some divers that had landed way out in the river.
Yep.
And I ended up, when I shot, the kayak flipped, and it was like 28 degrees out, so that put the end to the hunt right there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'll tell you that full story another time. But we saw so many birds, in the franticness to get me out of the water and get everything packed up and head to the boat. There were birds everywhere. So if I go back in time and change one hunt, I don't think I'd go after those buffies that morning in the kayak.
Man, I'll tell you what, kayaks, canoes, my hat's off to anyone that hunts out of those. Like, I don't know if you've been following it all, but I've been building my own layout boat.
I have been following that, yeah.
Man, that is so much more stable. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I don't think I've hunted out of a kayak or canoe since that day. So.
Yeah. I went out during teal season in my canoe, and I was like, and that was the day after I did the water test on that layout pad, and I'm like, no, that the pad ruined me on the first day of trying it out. I'm like, I can literally jump up and down, and this thing isn't gonna flip.
Yeah.
And so in a canoe, just the shooting off the shotgun, I'm sure it would rock the boat,
Oh yeah.
So, all right, second question. If you could be in a duck blind with 3 other people of all time, family members, friends, legends, living or deceased, who would it be?
Can I pick 2?
Yeah, you can pick 2.
All right. Lester Capps and Kirk McCullough.
Ooh, Kirk McCullough. Okay.
I love reading Kirk's posts, and I'm sure there's some people have their own opinion about him, but I love reading Kirk's posts and seeing it. I feel like I almost go back in time a little bit when I read about, how it was back in the day, and, him and Lester and everything. And I think if I could go on a hunt with 2 people, it would be him and Lester.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
That would be cool. All right, the third question, and we already know the answer. I mean, unless you want to change it up. But if you could stand over the shoulder of any call maker of all time and watch him turn a call, who would it be?
Well, I said Brad Samples, but I think I'd kind of be torn between that because it would either have to be Brad, Joey, or you, to be honest. And I'm not saying that just to suck up to you, but
Me? Why me?
well, because I think you have a very unique style call and call making, and you and Joey are people who I've always kind of felt that I could reach out when I need help with stuff or I want opinions on things and get an honest opinion from you guys. You guys have been a huge help. So if I could watch one person turn a call, I don't think I could pick just one because I have admiration for the three of you very strongly.
Well, I'm sorry, but I'm not letting you into my shop because for one reason. You have a good thing going on with these cut downs, and metal reeds are horribly addictive, and it's almost ruined. It's almost ruined my call making because that's all I want to make, and it's like the heroin of the drug world. It's really, really bad. So I mean, I was running last year in the Reelfoot competition. I was running a Mylar call, and then I made a metal reed. So this time I'm doing all metal reeds. I don't care about the Mylar division at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it's dangerous, man. Messing with metal reeds is a whole nother game. It's
We'll
very,
have to talk
very
about
bad.
that sometime because just over the course of doing this podcast, I've got some ideas, and maybe we can put our heads together on something.
Well, maybe we can talk about after I close the podcast out here in like 2 seconds.
That sounds good to me.
All right. Well, man, this if you could just again, Shaun, thank you so much. It's been a couple of years we've been talking about. We finally got it done. It is done. It's out there. Very soon it will be on the podcast platforms. Anyone that's listening, I'm so sorry. I've been behind on that. I apologize, but it's duck call making season and Reelfoot's coming up, so I have to make some calls for that. So everyone, yeah, it's just, that's kind of my focus right now is getting everything ready for Reelfoot. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Shaun, just stay on the line. We'll chat here in a second. I'm going to close her out, and then I'll play the intro, and then we'll chat after that. But everyone, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. And Rob, hopefully I will, yes, Rob said can confirm about the bad addiction to Mel Reed. So, Rob, I'll see you down at Reelfoot. But everyone, thank you so much for listening to Rilo's Quack Chat. Make sure to... this icon up here that says Rilo Live, make sure to hit that and friend the Rilo Live profile. That way you can tune in straight into it and you get a notification every time it goes live. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning in, and this has been Rilo's Quack Chat.